Hi there. So, just a little more context, some other things for you to think about as you're getting ready to go do your work at the Garcia Center and work with your learner. Remember, each of you will have one student assigned to you. You'll go and observe a tutoring session one day, and then you'll be able to go and conduct your assessments on another day. And under some rare circumstances, you may be able to both observe and assess, but I don't know if you want to if the child really spends time in a tutoring session, they may be pretty tired if you are going to assess them afterwards. Most of the tutorials take place, my understanding is, between 4:30 and about 5:15 to 5:30. So try to plan your timeline accordingly, although I know some of you have some scheduling things that are hard to work around. So if that's the case, please talk to me. We'll brainstorm it and we'll figure it out for you. I went through most of this the other night in class, but I just wanted to provide you with a little more context. I want you to notice that in the assessment summary, you're going to need to know the student's age, their grade level, their race and ethnicity, their language status, what language or languages does the student speak, and you definitely need to know if the student is an English learner because that's going to influence how you interpret those assessments that you're conducting. You need to know if the student has a disability if the Garcia Center is aware of it. And so these are all things that you can get information about from talking to the tutor. If your tutor doesn't know, please let me know and I'll get that information for you. And then remember, when you write up your tutoring observation summary, you really want to focus on what did you notice in terms of strengths of the learner, things that the child seemed to need some support with. Again, not necessarily and definitely not, the focus is not on critiquing the tutor themselves. And then describe the assessment instruments that you used and the scores that you obtain. And I want you to think really hard about trying to assess across those dimensions of reading. Now, if you're working with a kindergartner, a first grader, a second grader, it's probably going to be important for you to look at phonemic awareness. And you have several tools that you can use to do that. I gave you the Yop Singer in class. That's something you can Google and download online. You can use one of the measures associated with the DIBELS, which you can also go to the DIBELS website, sign up for an account for yourself, and go on and download all of those materials. Also on the DIBELS website, if you sign up, or if you go to easycbm.com, EASYCBM, as in curriculum-based measurement, easycbm.com. There's all kinds of resources there that you may be able to use in assessing phonemic awareness. And remember that the most important phonemic awareness skills for you to look at are blending and segmenting of sounds. Okay? You need to do a phonics assessment. For the younger students, you probably want to use nonsense words. That may also be appropriate for your students as they get older. There you're looking at those sound-symbol relationships, right? And again, there are parts of the DIBELS that do that. There are parts of EasyCBM. I actually also know that Princess gave y'all some materials that may be helpful to you in doing that assessment. When you assess fluency, I want you to be able to tell us how many words correct per minute the child reads and to identify an appropriate instructional reading level. So again, that's the highest level of text at which that child decodes with at least 90% accuracy and has a rate that is appropriate for that level of text. You've got the DIBELS. Some of you may have access to the DRA. If you have questions about how to do that, please let me know. But you're going to need to be able to take text. You're going to be able to need to look at those benchmarks for whatever assessment you're using. And you're going to need to find the highest level at which the child is reading quickly enough with enough accuracy to be considered on level. And that's where you're going to start instruction in the area of fluency. Comprehension is a little bit more challenging to assess, particularly for younger students. And so what you may want to do is just ask some questions about whatever passages you're having them read for fluency. You can have them do a story retell, which is where they retell much of the passage as they can remember, or as much of the passage as they read, usually in just 1 minute. You may want to do a maze. Maze tends to be more appropriate for students that are 3rd through 5th grade. You can Easy CBM has some maze passages. Dibbles has what they call DAZE, D-A-Z-E passages, which are the very same thing. In whatever comprehension measure you're using, particularly as students get older, if you're going to ask some comprehension questions, you want to be sure that you ask both literal questions, things they can find directly in the passage, and then you want to be able to ask some inferential questions, or questions that require them to extend their understanding beyond just what is literally included. Remember that, again, I've given you a number of websites you can refer to go get assessment materials. You may have materials your own, but you want to be sure that you're looking across these reading components. The last one being vocabulary, which in many ways we have the most limited access to good vocabulary instruments. But the close strategy, which I discussed in the vocabulary section, is one thing that you might use. Maze is also an indicator of being able to use vocabulary correctly. And you can always, whenever you've done these assessments, go back and look at the specific patterns of items that the child scores correctly on and items where they're not correct, and see if you notice anything that would give you a key to how you would need to instruct that child, or what kind of experiences you would need to provide in order to improve their skills. I'm going to, on this, list some of the websites in the same area under the tab on the left side of your folder where you found these guidelines that you can reference. If you have any questions, please contact me. I am here to try to help and support you as best possible, and I know this is something that many of you do all the time, and it'll come very naturally, and for some of you it may be something you haven't done before, and something that you would like to discuss. I hope that you find this helpful, and again, I apologize for any disfluencies. I will reiterate, I am neither a videographer or an actress.